Hey everyone, it's Kristen. So yes, I'm still in costume. I said in the first video I'd probably just stay in costume to talk about the rest of this, The Killing Joke, one of the most iconic Batman Batgirl stories there is. I just thought, since it's Halloween, why not? Why not dress up for it? If you wanted to see like my review of the costume and like the full costume, I showed you in the first video. Like I said, it's not the most flattering costume. It's not my favorite, but it's still fun to have this costume because I love costumes. And like I said, this one's work appropriate, where it's not just like this one long one-piece bodysuit where, honestly, no pockets, and it's a pain to, if you have to do other stuff, go to the bathroom because there's only the one zipper in the back. Or like my other costumes, like Wonder Woman, it's basically kind of a swimsuit, so it's definitely not like work appropriate or anything like that. I have one Wonder Woman costume that I did wear when I was a camp counselor for Superhero Day, but it's like the more traditional Wonder Woman, like the very first Wonder Woman costume with the skirt and everything. So, and then I ended up putting a t-shirt over the top half of it so you could just basically see the skirt. So I did wear that one year at day camp for for Superhero Day. Because so day camp is outside and it's in the middle of summer, so I definitely wouldn't want to be wearing this costume, which is like this pleather material, like trash. Well, it kind of, like I said, it's not the most flattering because it kind of looks like a trash bag material, but it's definitely not breathable. During the summer in Texas, oh, that'd be super, super, super hot. I wouldn't do that. No, I couldn't do that. I wouldn't survive. Anyway, okay. So when we last left, Batman was talking to Alfred saying, how can two people that don't know each other at all, like, how can they hate each other so much? And, Alfred doesn't respond. And then we come to Commissioner Gordon's house, and he's looking at the paper, and it basically says that Joker escaped again. And the commissioner is just really upset because he's like, this happens over and over again. We catch him, we put him away, and then he escapes, and we're just sitting here praying that he doesn't do anything too horrible in the meantime before we catch him again. So, and Barbara, his daughter, Batgirl, which, he doesn't know is Batgirl at this point. She's like, Dad, just, give it a break. I mean, leave your work at work for once. Here, I made you some cocoa. And he's looking at all his scrapbooks of like when Batman first came on the scene and when he first fought the Joker, and there's, a sound, a knock at the door, and, Commissioner Gordon, Jim, it's like, well, was that the door? And Barbara said, oh, it's probably Colleen from across the street because we have yoga class tonight. So as she's going to the door, she talks about how, when her dad, the commissioner, would tell her all these stories about Joker, it would terrify her. And he's just like, well, I just thought you'd want to know, I thought you'd be interested. And she's like, yeah, I had some interesting nightmares. And then speaking of nightmares, again, no words on this page. No words like in any of these panels. And another thing that makes it iconic. Like, this basically needs no explanation. And that's, like I said, another thing that makes this story so iconic is just, there's that moment, the pivotal moment, and just the panels, how they're set up, there's no explanation needed. And then, of course, Jim rushes to his daughter's side, and he's like, oh my gosh, kind of what's going on, and Joker's over there making jokes because Barbara's a librarian, so he's making, book jokes like, oh, look, this is what happens to librarians. They think that they're, she thinks she's a coffee table edition, but with but there's a hole in the jacket and the spine's damaged, so no one's going to want that. The value of it is, no one's going to want to buy it. It's not going to be flying off the shelves or walking off the shelves at that condition. And then he's like, well, it won't be walking at all, really. And so, Joker's goon subdues Commissioner Gordon in the background, and Barbara's like, why are you doing this? And Joker says, to prove a point. And he's like, here's the crime. And you'll understand what the point is throughout this story. And then the next page, we go back to the flashback. And like I had pointed out before, all like sepia, black and white tones, so that it's not present day. And again, pops of color, food, this Red Hood, their meal. So Joker's having a meal with these two crooks, and how they met up, how they got together, we're not sure. They don't really elaborate on that, but they know that Joker used to work at this lab, like the Acme chemical company, because he was a lab assistant, and he said it paid good money, but he quit to become a comedian because he thought he had talent, which is, ironic because obviously he doesn't have talent, and considering what he told his wife Jeannie, that he blew the punchline of his joke and nobody laughed. So anyway, he's lamenting the fact that, he doesn't have money, and he wants to get his kid out of this, that hasn't been born yet, out of this neighborhood that they're in. And so the crooks ask him to do this one job, and then he'll be set up for life. He can give his kid a better life. And Joker's, he's not sure that he wants to do it, and they just remind him, well, hey, think about your wife and your unborn child and how much better they'll be once they're out of that neighborhood. So all you have to do is show us, and this is the part I don't get. They want him to show them how to get through the chemical company and into the playing card manufacturer, like basically next door, or they're like conjoined, within the same building, which they never say why they want into the playing card company, or why they're so desperate to get in there, or what's in there that they're going to steal. They never say that. They never elaborate. So we don't honestly really know why. And they don't, they don't explain throughout the rest of the story either why. So Joker's like, well, okay, if you can promise me, I'll make good money and no one will know it's me, then sure. And he's like, one of the crooks is like, because they don't give them names really. One of the crooks, or I think one of them's name is Joe. I'm not positive, but I think so. He gives Joker this helmet and calls it a Red Hood. He said, you'll be wearing this. It'll protect your identity. We have to protect the identity of the most important part of, our group, snickering basically to his other person, his accomplice. And Joker's like, well, I don't know why you want to go to this chemical company, because it's dark and dirty, and that's part of the reason I quit. And they just remind him about the money, and he's like, well, okay, after I get this one big score, then nothing will be the same, again, because he thinks now all of a sudden he's gonna be rich. Okay. And Joker points out, like, this Red Hood. He's like, wasn't that used in a different crime? Hasn't there been a crime that's been committed with that already? And they're like, oh no, that's just like rumors. It's just a bunch of guys in masks. It's not, it's not a thing. So, okay, seeing the Red Hood, and that's what they call it in here, reminds me of the animated movie that DC did, Under the Red Hood, where, well, if you haven't seen it, I don't want to spoil it, but I will just say that DC makes far better, superior animated movies to Marvel. Like Marvel, I don't even think they've made any animated movies. Now their animated show, What If, like on Disney Plus, that was pretty good. Like I will say that was pretty good. But as far as like movies, like a a self-contained story that's a movie, no. Like I have a couple of Marvel's movies that they attempted to do, and they're just not as good as DC's. DC, I don't know, has the formula for animated movies for sure. But Under the Red Hood, oh, it is such a good movie. It's such a good storyline. I don't want to give anything away. I don't want to spoil it. So I will just say you should watch it. If you get the chance, you should watch it. And speaking of animated movies, they actually made this one, The Killing Joke, into a movie. And it's definitely, the movie, of course, is definitely even more disturbing than this, the comic book. Yeah, I didn't like it because they added some elements into it that I was like, yeah, I'm not sure about that. And if you watch it, you'll see what I mean. I don't want to give it away in case you're like, well, I want to go see that. I want to see that movie. But yeah, I think you'll see what I mean when you watch it, and after you watch the videos of me talking about this, then you'll be like, oh, okay, I see what she means. But that's just me. That's just my personal, personal preference. Anyway, so they're at the hospital, and the doctor's like, the bullet went through her spine, she won't be able to walk again. And Batman's clutching Joker's card because, of course, Joker left it, like his calling card. And Batman's like, give me a minute alone with her. And, he's like, Barbara, it's Bruce. And she wakes up and she's just, you can see it in her face. She's terrified. And she's like, I don't, for a moment disoriented. And she's like, what? He took Dad. He said he's going to be like top of the bill or something, because when Joker was leaving, I forgot to mention that he said, because they said that Colleen found her, the neighbor she was going to do yoga with, found her naked, and there was a lens cap on the floor, which meant someone undressed her and took pictures of her. Which Joker had said earlier, it's a shame, Barbara or Miss Gordon, that you're going to miss your father's big debut, but don't worry, I'll bring pictures of you so he'll remember. Anyway, okay. This next part is creepy, because, look at how he drew the dwarves. They're very creepy. And he actually, in an interview in this edition, he apologizes and says to all the readers of a diminutive stature that are reading this, I apologize for our lack of political correctness. Which, of course, because not all dwarves are like creepy looking like that. Of course, for the purposes of this story, they were. So they're undressing Commissioner Gordon. They have basically a dog collar on him. They have him on a leash. They're urging him forward. You can see that guy who's trying to sell Joker, the amusement park, is still there, still on the elephant, still has a grin on his face because, of course, he's dead. His smell's frozen like that. And Joker sitting on his throne, which kind of looks like it could be a spinning teacup or something. And he has all these, the bodies of dead babies. They're probably just baby dolls, but it's no less creepy, leading up to him, up to there. And Commissioner Gordon's like, what's going on? What am I doing here? I don't understand. And, Joker says, you're doing what any sane person would do in this situation. You're going mad. And, of course, he sees Joker and it clicks. He's like, oh, no, I remember. Oh, my gosh, Barbara. And Joker's like, oh, don't remember. Remembering, memories, remembering is a bad thing. Because you start off with good memories, like childhood memories, and then you go to this dark and depressing place where you can't escape, where you can't get out of. But there is an escape, Joker says. You know, you can, I mean, because he goes into this huge speech about how memories, you know, are what we based our reason on, which kind of makes sense. Like how you grow up, how you're raised, it kind of shapes who you are. Granted, it also depends on your responses in those situations, but that's a big part of, you know, what makes you who you are is how you grow up and how you respond to, you know, how you grow up. Because of course, like they did the study where there were twins that were, you know, had an alcoholic father. One became an alcoholic and then one, you know, went on to be successful. So it's not just how you're raised, but it's also how you respond to situations in life. So basically Joker's saying, you know, memories are what we base, you know, our reasoning on. And if we can't face our memories, then we deny reason itself. And then he's like, well, although why not? Like we're not contractually obligated to be tied down to rationality. There is no sanity clause. Which, like I said, Alan Moore, he's like a really thought-provoking writer, I will say, because of course, like Watchmen and V for Vendetta are along the same lines. They talk about heavy things. They talk about real things like in the world. So it just, I wanted to like kind of read that so I don't, so I didn't mess it up because I didn't memorize it quite yet. And he said, so basically Joker's saying, so when you find yourself locked onto an unpleasant train of thought heading for places in your past where the screaming is unbearable, remember there's always madness. Madness is the emergency exit. You can just step outside of that and just lock them away forever. So see, they're taking Commissioner Gordon into this, you know, the tunnel because he's riding on this little car with the dwarves. So go into this tunnel. And then, so we go back to another flashback. And you see a police officer and probably a detective. They're stepping into this bar and grill, you know. And they are looking actually for Joker. Because they're showing a picture of him and his wife to the bartender. And they're like, he's like pointing over there. And they're like, sir, and that's important. They say, sir. So we still don't know Joker's real name. Like, they just call him sir. They don't say, hey, Mr. whoever, or hey, Mr. Kevin, whatever. You know, they just say, sir. And they're like, we need to talk to you. And Joker's like, freaked out, and so are his accomplices. So are his, you know, other two guys at the table with him because they're crooks and they're planning this heist. And so they think, holy cow, I don't know how, but we've been found out already. Like, what are we supposed to do? But they're just like, sir, can I talk to you? And Joker's like, but I haven't done anything wrong. Why do you need to talk to me? And they're like, it'll just take a moment, please. And they're like, I'm terribly sorry, but there's been an accident. And Joker's like, you know, just like, what do you mean? There was a fire in your apartment, and your wife was testing a baby bottle warmer, because remember, she's pregnant, and there was a fire, and there was an electrical short, and that resulted in a fire, and she died, and the baby's dead too. And of course, Joker, you know, I mean, he can't believe it. And they're like, well, all the details are at the hospital. But, you know, if I were you, I would go ahead and have another drink. So Joker's like, wow, okay. Like, he's, you know, dumbfounded. He doesn't know what to do. And, you know, Joker's like, well, I guess I'm not going to do that, you know, the heist then, because there's no reason to. I mean, I was doing it for my wife and my child, but they're dead, so there's no reason for me to do it now. And the guys are like, you better be there or else, basically. Like, you better be there or we're going to kill you. So we go back to present day, and they're taking Commissioner Gordon through this tunnel, where Joker is singing about being loony, being crazy. Let's see. Where's the song? I tried to memorize it and I couldn't. Oh, he says, Mr. Life is swell in a padded cell. It'll chase those blues away. You can trade your gloom for a rubber room and 2 injections a day. Anyway, and injections twice a day. So he's just, singing the praises of being loony. So the next part of it, if you think about it, well, I mean, this whole thing has been pretty disturbing already, but the next part is even more so. And yeah. So I guess I'll leave it there on a cliffhanger, and hopefully you'll join me for the 3rd video where I show you the next shocking part of this story. And yes, I'll probably still be in costume since, like I said, I started this video series in costume. I might as well finish it in costume, and we'll see what happens. Maybe I'll do more videos in costume. Just, keep watching. Maybe subscribe, and then then you won't miss it for sure. If you're just subscribed, then it'll alert you that I have a new video, and you can check it out from there. So anyway, I hope you join me for the next video in this series, and until then, bye.